We're talking with Beverly Roberts about her new book, and the title is
Portraits of American Bikers, Life in the 1960s, subtitled The Flash Collection.
What can you tell me about it?
This book is about a one percenter motorcycle club that has a long line of history that leads back to 1935. This particular photograph collection zeroes in on the middle to late 1960s when my father was a member of the Detroit chapter of the Outlaws MC. For those who don't know anything about the Outlaws, it's actually American Outlaw Association, and they're one of the largest motorcycle clubs in the country, and they have chapters all around the world now. This basically is a select assortment of photographs from my father's collection. He took about 500 photographs during the time that he was a member of the Outlaws. They've been stored away for the past 40 years. They were taken just to record some very personal, private moments he shared with his brothers in the club during those years. They were never meant to be publicly shown, but I think they should be. And when my father passed away, I got with the Outlaws. Fortunately, they also agreed that these pictures should be made public. We wrote up an agreement and got to work on getting these pictures in a book form. And the first of the series of 3 comes out in about 2 weeks. August 15th, we'll have a soft launch of some copies, and then we'll have a full launch on the 25th of August of the first book.
And when I think of Outlaws, they've always had a kind of an interesting reputation.
Sure. There's a lot of interest in these clubs, and there's a lot of, how do we want to say this? I mean, especially the Outlaws, there is not much out there that really comes directly from them. And that's something I think I want to bring across, too, that all through from 1935, this club of the one percenter of the big, real, hardcore motorcycle clubs, this club has been the most private. Well, because of that, nobody has seen these pictures in the last 40 years. But how do we bring out like some emotion about how rare or how important the collection really is?
When you think of the Outlaws and the motorcycle gangs, you always think a little bit about it being tarnished. The kinds of people that would join these associations are rebels, unique, their own person.
Absolutely, and I grew up around that and witnessed that a lot of prejudice just based on the way that these people were dressed, the way my father was dressed. But there's a complete other side to these people that most have no idea. That comes across in this photo collection, and that's what I want to bring to the surface.
Do you have any unusual stories about the Outlaws?
I have a lot of fond memories. It seemed like as wild as the 1960s were, there was also an innocence about that time, too. And for my sister and I, she was 6 and I was 8 when my father started riding with the Outlaws. They were like uncles to us. We would have fun sometimes just teasing them and playing tricks on them and things like that. That's the side that I saw when I was growing up of these people.
And what about this spider story?
You want to hear my spider story? Well, they were kind of, to us, they were our rescuers. There was one night that there was a big spider in our room, and my sister and I were screaming for somebody to come and get the spider out of our room. And about 6 of the guys came running through the door, and they were falling over each other trying to get to the spider. And finally, one of them got the spider, and then they, true to the personalities that they are, they stood in front of us and then proceeded to eat the spider. At the same time, they came and rescued us. They grossed us out as well. Those kind of memories are fun for me.
Are there any famous names associated with Outlaws?
Yes, David Allen Coe would be someone who comes to mind. He's still out there playing live. He's written a lot of songs for other people. He has, I don't even know how many CDs out of his own music. He's got a lot of country music. He's got a lot of music that's got an outlaw feel to the lyrics. And he was an outlaw. He wrote the song Take This Job and Shove It. That was eventually the theme song for a movie, as most people know.
How about your father, Flash?
My father was the only male child of 2 Bulgarian immigrant parents. He grew up just being a very curious person, a very free-spirited person. He rode motorcycles from a very early age, and he also seemed to have a natural talent as an entrepreneur. So he had a lot of business ventures, but the common theme that seemed to run through all of his hobbies and all of the business ventures was motorcycles. I think that's what led to him taking the pictures of the club.
What about the type of equipment that he used? How did he get into photography?
One of my father's early businesses was the printing business. That's where the photography at a professional level really started. He took care of all of his own photography for the work he did. He burned his own plates. He did his own printing. He did silk screening. He did the commercial photography, and I think that's where the speed graphic press camera came into the mix. He needed that kind of quality. And he also was someone who was always carrying a camera. Most of the time, if it were for vacations and things like that, he would carry a 35 millimeter. But if he were serious about getting something and he wanted to do something for his catalog, or I think in this case, creating this documentary of memories of his brothers in the Outlaws, he used his Graflex speed graphics camera.
What you're saying, he would take this speed graphic and he would go to these events and document them.
Yes, he took his camera on pretty much all of the social outings that he attended during that time period. They were used to carrying tents and equipment and things like that and roughing it at campground. For him to just strap his camera on and take it with him was just a natural thought for him to do, and that's what he liked best about going on these trips, was to get a chance to take some photography that was just for a personal purpose.
When he brought these negatives home, did he have them commercially developed, or did he have his own darkroom?
My dad did everything himself. He was so curious. He loved to learn. It was natural that he processed all of his own negatives. We really bonded doing a lot of business-related things. If I wanted to spend time with my dad, that's pretty much where you'd find him to spend time with him. I helped him a lot when I was younger, 8, 9, and 10 years old, with the darkroom processes and the developing of these negatives and the single prints that he did off of the negatives for his personal use.
Why didn't these negatives surface earlier?
My father made a promise to the club when he started taking these pictures that they were for his personal use, that they would not be shared with the public.
What made you decide that it was time to bring these to light?
I've always been fascinated by these pictures from the very beginning when I helped my father develop them, because they have such feeling. They're straight from the soul, from his soul. He put a lot of passion into shooting these pictures. I recognize that. They're pictures, or at least I had thought that they would be pictures that would move anybody who's seen them from any walk of life. And yet that was just something I felt. Unless my father agreed, there was nothing I could do to take that to the next level and show other people and share these pictures, because of the promise he had made with the club that he would not do that. Finally, he did make another promise to me that upon his death, he knew how I felt about these pictures, and he knew how I felt about the club, and that I would do the right thing. And so he told me upon his death that I would then become the guardian of these pictures, and I could do whatever I wanted at that point. He trusted I would use my good judgment. So at that point, they belonged to me. I put a lot of thought into it. 40 years plus later, still felt the same way, that these pictures are just amazing. They speak out to people from all walks of life, and they should be shared.
And then the transition becomes the reality of creating a book.
Definitely the dream of wanting to do this and the reality have some differences. This book is different than anything that's ever been done, I think, about any 1%er club. We started working on it, put a solid 2 years into going through these pictures, contacting people and gathering information before we finally felt that we were ready to bring out the first volume.
Now, you went through a lot of transitions, but you ended up scanning the negatives.
We did. Originally, my thought was, and it was nostalgic for my brother and I to get together and go back into the darkroom and hand process some of the prints. My thought was maybe I could sell them to collectors and generate some working capital to produce a book once we had everything in place with our agreement with the club. Early into this, my brother and I realized two things. One, there wasn't a big market for people looking to buy these original hand-processed prints. And secondly, that after 40 years, these negatives were in perfect condition, and we didn't want to handle them, if at all possible. The first step was to scan all the negatives and see what we had. My brother did that. We had a mixture of some good negatives and some bad, some coloration issues that we started to fix with a computer program. We had started doing some research of negative scanners, and we came across the Epson Perfection photo scanner for negatives for 4x5s, the V700 model specifically, and thought that we would like to take a look and see if that would do a better job. So we rescanned all 500 negatives. They came out absolutely gorgeous. We were shocked. We knew from that point that we were going to be able to preserve the negatives and accomplish everything that we wanted to as far as maintaining the detail in the prints that we would do for the book and for framing. One of the first things we did when we put together a selection of these pictures was to go down to Daytona Bike Week and get some out there so that we could get some reaction from some of the bikers themselves. On that trip, we met someone who was promoting Ohio Bike Week and had asked if he could use a couple of our pictures in his display. He took two of our images and he blew them up to 20 feet by 30 feet. We had scanned and sent him a high-res image to work with. They were hanging in the Broken Spoke Saloon with backlighting behind them, along with some motorcycles hanging from the ceilings. We have pictures on our website. They just looked phenomenal. My daughter had seen them for the first time, and she couldn't believe it. That Grandpa's pictures were up there in 20 by 30 feet at a major event. So after that event, we were continuing to work on the book and had planned to have the book out hopefully by Christmas. We had an offer come up to co-exhibit my father's photographs with the famous chopper builder Ron Finch from Pontiac, Michigan. That was just something I just couldn't turn down. It was so exciting. We started immediately working on that project and put together an exhibit. There will be 36 pictures in the exhibit. They will be combined with 12 of Ron's chopper creations that he takes and travels around the museum circuit.
At these events, are we going to really be able to see some true outlaws?
Yes, we have a great team on board. We have some of the old-timers that have been very heavily involved in the technical details of the project. We have some that grew up like I did around this as kids, and so far it's crossed every generation, including various lifestyles. There's something for everyone in these pictures. They're fun. They have a lot of energy. We've gotten a phenomenal response from all different kinds of people.